All the same, we're very happy with our entry into motorsport in Australia. We'd just like today to present a Seiko LaSalle watch to each of these three gentlemen who took the major placings at Bathurst to commemorate their fine performance on that day and also to commemorate our entry into motorsport. So firstly, to Peter, congratulations.
Thank you very,
Great race.
much. Thank you very much.
Alan, great race.
Thanks very much.
And John, well done. Thanks very much.
Clive, do these watches, do they take lap times?
These are our beautiful slim editions, Gary. Our dressed models. We have some other wonderful watches that we'll be using today to take Alan's very fine times.
I take it from your remarks that we're going to see you and Seiko continue your involvement in motorsport.
We're very happy with the exposure we've had in motorsport in the short time we've been in it. Seiko LaSalle is a beautiful watch, and it was a nice way to make an entry onto the market.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clive Potter from Seiko, and congratulations to the three men that, again, came out on top on the mountain at Bathurst this year. Peter Brock, Alan Grice, and John Harvey. Pretty happy with that?
Absolutely, and I must say that on behalf of my motor racing competitors in Australia, we'd like to really congratulate Seiko on being involved in Australian motorsport. They're a big international company, and that can only do the sport good. And thanks very much for the watch. The other one had broken down, and it's on the wrist already.
Grice, you don't tell me you haven't got anything to say.
It's a terrible thing to say. I was very worried it wasn't going to be a lovely watch, but how about that? Thank you.
Okay, and Johnny Harvey, come in here. We don't want to leave you standing out there in the cold. It's a nice bit of gear.
Beautiful. I'm really pleased with this. It's something I didn't expect, and I'd just like to support what Peter said. It's great to see a company such as Seiko involved in motor racing, and we hope.
And alongside 05 Peter Brock. Here's a match we wanted to see. Brock in the Commodore, the car that won at Bathurst, against Bob Morris in the Falcon. Falcon has the larger engine, the more horsepower. It is heavier. The Commodore's advantage in the past in races has been with its handling and its braking. They won't matter for a thing here. It's out-and-out horsepower and the way the power can be delivered to the road. And, of course, they'll have to change gears with the clutch. They don't have clutchless gear changes, as you saw in those drags of those two pro stockers. John Harvey just lining up behind for a go as well. Here's something we haven't seen before, or I haven't seen. Two Australia's greatest racing drivers in their conventional touring cars.
Just wondering if they're going to warm the tyres up as well.
Just of course running on ordinary racing rubber, not special drags to slicks. The Christmas tree is flashing. They're away. Brock has a bit of a tail wag as he puts the power down. Morris is away quicker, and as Morris is leading to start with, but Brock is winding up. But the Falcon is just marginally in front. They're coming almost side by side. Brock is closing, and Brock is going ahead, and Brock wins by half a car length from Bobby Morris. He was behind at the start, had trouble holding the power, 12.69 seconds. That is fast for a standing quarter for a touring car, 12.69, and Brock by half a length. He's going around the track to slow down. Well, I thought Morris was going to do it. He was in front, not by much, but he had the lead, got the power down just a little better. But Brock out-accelerated him in those last 100 metres and got there to win by half a length.
GMH 2, Ford 0.
Now we have, it'll be GMH 3 this time because there are two Commodores. It's John Harvey versus Alan Grice. Alan Grice, who wrote his name into the history books by being the first man ever to lap the Mount Panorama track at better than 100 miles per hour and came second in a brilliant display that he and Alan Brown turned on this year at Bathurst. He's up against John Harvey. Harvey's away better on the inside. Grice is trying, but it's Harvey who's leading out. And I think Harvey's going to take it to the line. Harvey, yes, Harvey by maybe 3 car lengths across the line. Alan Grice just behind. Harvey got the better jump from the flag, and that was it. Alan Grice never quite caught up, but that was faster time, 11.83. So 0.8 of a second better by John Harvey compared to team leader Peter Brock. And no wonder Alan Grice was beaten then, because that was a sensationally fast time over the standing quarter. So if you wondered what sort of time these cars would do over the standing quarter, you know now it's 11.83. And that's the time recorded by John Harvey. Well, action of a different sort here at Calder, and in a minute we'll be returning with something totally different.
Cast yesterday, can he put up a similar performance and come from the rear of the grid today?
Because he didn't start in practice for the official starting positions, he has to begin from the rear of the grid in car 7, the Bob Jane Chevy Monza, and therefore he has to 18 cars to pass. Well, yesterday he did it.
Without too much trouble.
Whether he can do it again today, of course. Some of them had a few problems yesterday on the front row of the grid, trying to make life miserable for him and setting a merry pace.
Jim Richards in the turbocharged BMW, the JPS black and gold car, and Rusty French driving the Porsche 935 car 27 that Alan Jones has campaigned so magnificently this year. He'll be on the front row of the grid. Rusty French driving it, and Rusty French has handed his car over to Alan Brown. Alan Brown, who retired at Bathurst, has come back in a 700 horsepower car. That's a funny sort of retirement. But they're on the front row of the grid, and the start will be crucial to...
Screen, that's Brock going through.
Unbelievable.
Look at him fly. He's got by 15 cars already as they come up, and he's on the inside of Jolly there as they come through Valvoline for the first time, and they know they've got a tiger on their tail as Brock goes thundering up through the field. And look at it. Rusty French is in front. That's better for him.
Jim Richards in second spot.
Colin Bond third, and then Tony Edmondson in fourth place, and Rocky is up there among them already. Car 2, the one he's chasing, is Dick Ward in the turbocharged Mazda RX-7, the first turbo rotary we've seen here, about to be passed by Peter Brock.
Coming down, 1 lap gone.
Well, Rusty French has got it going this time. He said he was learning how to drive the car last time. But Peter Henshaw penalised 1 minute, by the way, in car 4 for jumping the start. There's Peter Brock up right on Tony Edmondson's tail, and he's going to go past him unless he's careful. 27 is Rusty French. He leads the race.
Peter Brock in 5th place after coming from the rear of the grid.
He's passed Tony Edmondson. Alan Brown has taken the black Porsche through, and the field. Beautifully prepared cars in this 15-lap race, the Patra GT Sport Sedan Challenge.
Brock's up to 3rd.
And here they go down the straight. Turbo Porsche in front. That's Rusty French. Turbo BMW in 2nd spot.
Not anymore.
A big V8 Chevy Monza of Peter Brock is up into 2nd spot, right on Rusty French's tail. Now, will he go by, or will he give him a hard time for a while? No, he'll go by. Onside. But Rusty French is a brave driver, still learning how to drive a very difficult car, but he has to yield, and it'll be Brock who goes through to the lead.
So in a lap and a half from the rear of the grid to the lead in the race, Peter Brock. What an awesome piece of machinery that is.
And what an awesome driver too, because he really had some difficult threading to do. He said it's a magnificent car to drive, as Jim Richards, by the way, just went a little wide there in his pursuit of the Porsche. He knows with the smaller engine, less than 2 litres, he has to keep it wound up, otherwise he'll lose out to the more powerful cars on the straight. Jim running in 3rd place. Peter Brock. It says the great feature of this car is the way he can turn it and brake. He brakes so late, it corners beautifully. Just watch the way he comes down the back straight now towards the S's and how he flings this big, heavy American car around so beautifully. Watch the way he goes through the corner. That's real on-rail stuff, isn't it?
Lap time for Brock, 41.03. That's about Grand Prix time.
That would put him 18th on the grid for the Grand Prix, and that would be fairly good.
Tony Edmondson in the Chevy Alpha is in 4th spot in the race, and Colin Bond in another Porsche holding down 5th at the present time.
Well, Rusty French in the John Sands Porsche running in 2nd spot. Still getting used to the car, let's remember that. He'll be campaigning it all next year for the Sands team. And the 2nd car being driven by Alan Brown. Peter Brock, who's driving the Bob Jane Chevy Monza, is proposing to become even more versatile next year and take up Formula Pacific driving.
Brock has just demolished the lap record, 40.32. The previous record was 40.62 for GT cars. It was held by Alan Jones in the Porsche 935. So a new lap record to that man on screen, Peter Brock. For GT cars, there's the thumbs up as he goes past the pit.
That would have put him 17th on the grid for the Australian Grand Prix, single-seater racing cars. Absolutely incredible. Something like 600 horsepower. Not an easy car to drive, one would think, although Peter seems to love it. Said it's delightful, brakes well, does everything well. Just about to catch a very heavily modified Datsun 260Z. Gordon Dobie driving that in car 54. Tony Edmondson from Tasmania, national champion for a couple of years. Probably the best looking car, or certainly one of the best looking cars in the field. There's got Colin Bond very close on his tail in another good looking car, the 944 Turbo, another of Alan Hamilton's car. They're having a great night, that pair. Peter Brock has just run away at the moment, a magnificent drive through the field. But the others are still hanging on pretty closely. He's not that far in front, although he does seem to have the race well and truly under his control at this stage. A bit of a spin there. Looks like Colin Bond, is it?
Yes, it is. Colin Bond has spun out.
unlike Colin, but he was so close to Tony Edmondson that maybe something happened, may have touched or whatever. The marshal giving a signal that could be interpreted as back onto the track, or whatever you do, don't back onto the track. And Colin wisely is waiting till he can see what the situation is before he gets back on the circuit and resumes the race.
Nearly 7 seconds now between our leader, and that's Peter Brock, and the second place getter, Rusty French.
8 laps to go.
Now you can see on the let's watch the Colin Bond instead. Oh, Colin is starting to go there. Tried to go on the inside of Tony Edmondson, and then watch the way he controls that slide. That's great driving. Mind you, he left the car in a position he would have preferred not to have put it. But
it's lucky there was no traffic just there.
Yes, but when you consider that he was travelling at a speed of something around 200 kilometres an hour and was able to control a slide like that, another car, Bob Jolly, just pulling his fairly heavily modified Commodore, in case you can't work out what it is, off to the outer part of the track. May in fact have a tyre problem by the way the car seemed to be handling. One of the older Tiranas just about to be engulfed there by the leader. That is Robin Doherty in a Tirana hatchback.
Rusty French still in second place, being hotly pressed by Jim Richards in the BMW, and then Tony Edmondson still fourth.
7.13 seconds is the gap between the leader and this pair of cars. Rusty French in 27, the Porsche 935, and Jim Richards very close behind him. One of the great drivers on the Australian scene, formerly from New Zealand, Richards. Great rally driver as well as race driver, and running the rather small, almost dainty BMW Turbo up against some pretty heavy machinery.
6 laps to go for Peter Brock. There's 15 laps per race. The Patra Trophy, the GT cars and sports sedans.
Rusty French in second spot and pulled away slightly, having with Colin Bond's exit from the race. And the great battle for third is between the BMW of Jim Richards and we're watching Peter Brock, who just is in a race of his own at the moment. It's a Chevrolet Monza, which is a small Mustang-sized car sold in America, in the new generation of small-bodied sports-type sedans, but fitted with the big Chevy engine with 5 laps to go. Been heavily worked on by the Bob Jane organisation. His mechanic, Pat Pendergast, who's one of the great wizards of engine tuning and car preparation in this country. Extracts a lot of horsepower from the car, and even more important, has built it into a controllable machine.
Alan Brown, who's driving Rusty French's car, is in 5th spot in the race. It's Brock, French, Richards, Edmondson, Brown.
Speaking to Alan Brown before the race, and said, what are you doing in a category like this? Said, oh, I just wanted to have a go. I said, what's it like? Said, I'm having a ball. And it's great to see people who enjoy their motor racing, as Alan Brown does. Peter Brock enjoys it too. He just happens to make life a bit miserable for most people who compete against him.
4 laps to go. He's just reeling them off one after the other in very, very quick succession.
So the order is Peter Brock, Rusty French, Jim Richards in the BMW, Tony Edmondson in the Alfa Romeo, Alan Brown in the Porsche, Colin Bond, who's recovered very well to get right up into 6th place.
We've clocked Brocky unofficially at 40.32, which is a new lap record for GT cars around here.
And this is a great battle going on between Jim Richards and Tony Edmondson. Edmondson has just got in front again, by the way, but let's have a look. Or was it the Porsche? Talking of Porsches, is this the Peter Fitzgerald car, the RSR, which he brought back into motor racing? Just about to be passed. 3 laps to go. I think it was Peter Fitzgerald in the pale colour Porsche RSR. Oh, and 3 abreast there, and the middle one was a fast one. Brock goes blazing through that gap of cars he's lapping, down the back straight, coming towards the S's. Jolly right behind him. You get a jolly good view of the way to do it too, as he takes his Commodore through behind a car that has probably another 200 horsepower on him, plus a lot more development.
Somebody off on the infield there as Brock goes past.
It was Dick Ward in the turbocharged Mazda. I think he pulled over to let him through and then got to do a little bit of diddly on the gravel. There he is now. Although, by the way the front wheels look, he may have a little bit more than just some trouble. No, it's just the alignment of the wheels. He's okay.
2 laps to go for Peter Brock. The third car you see there, just about to come down around Valvoline, that is the Porsche RSR of Peter Fitzgerald. That's it there. Car number 3. That car's up for sale after today's race, Peter was telling me.
We'll see him in action also a little later in the series production car, in which he drives the Mazda RX-7.
Peter Brock leading. A great battle going on for second spot between Rusty French and Jim Richards. Richards really harrying the bigger Porsche. But Peter Brock wouldn't know anything about that. He's out in front, just enjoying himself. Has the lap record to his credit. Shattered in this race, a lap record that Alan Jones had set in the Porsche 935. 1 lap to go during his amazing march towards the Australian Sports Sedan and GT title this year. There were 9 races. He won the lot. I've never heard of that before. The Porsche car number 2 being black flagged. He has some problem. They're asking him to please get off the circuit. It's all very well to try and continue in the race, but not at the detriment of other competitors, so they've asked him to leave the track. He's got some problem. There's the leader. We just had a brief glimpse of those battling for second spot. Some gap behind her now, but Brock's going to make an easy one of this. But still the battle continues for second between French and Richards, the Porsche and the Alfa Romeo. Well, a great drive by Peter Brock. Started from the rear of the field, was in front after 1.5 laps, went on to demolish the lap record, and he takes such an easy victory in a category that really has some glittering stars amongst it. Coming down the straight, almost side by side, a great battle for second spot, but it's going to be Rusty French who just holds off Jim Richards. French goes through first in the Porsche, BMW third, and that's the way they finished in the race. It's Brock first in the Chevy Monza, Rusty French second for John Sands in the Porsche 935, Jim Richards for JPS in the BMW 318 Turbo.
The total elapsed time for the race, 10 minutes, 34.82 seconds. A new lap record to Peter Brock. The winner came from the rear of the grid. Second and third came off the front row of the grid.
Tony Edmonton was in 4th place in the Alfa Romeo. Alan Brown in the Porsche 935 in 6th spot. And Colin Bond, recovering so well after his early spin in the Porsche 944 Turbo, took 6th position. And there's the car, black flag, car number 2, Dick Ward, an oil leak from his rotary turbo. Bad luck for him. A beautiful looking car, and we expect to see great things
coming from the back of the grid. Well, you did it in 1.5 laps today and got to the lead.
Well, I wasn't counting, but I was particularly happy for Pat Purcell because we've put a lot of work into that car the last few months, and Pat said today, if we can win these, we're going well. If we get the lap record, we're going even better. So I got the lap record.
You did get the lap record. We timed it around about 40.32, which would actually put you, I think, on about 17th position in the grid for the Grand Prix.
Oh, that's not bad. Actually, we were hoping to do 39s, but we'll worry about that for next year, I think.
All right, Ian, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Peter, congratulations on a very fine win.
Thank you.
We love to see fast people going very fast in good cars, and it was a magnificent win.
Thank you very much, and my thanks to Bob.